Hello everybody and welcome back to the Crumbs and Doilies kitchen with me, Sally, and Sam on the camera as usual. And congrats guys, we did it. We made it through 2020, which was no mean feat, and it is certainly cause for celebration. And a celebration is not a celebration without a cake. So last week over on the Cupcake Jemma Instagram account, we held a poll to see what cake you wanted to round off this year with, and the winner, which I'm pretty pleased to announce, was the Ferrero Rocher cake. It is one of my all-time favorite cakes. It's a Crumbs and Doilies beast of a cake, which means there's a heck of a lot going into it. We have got to make hazelnut sponge, chocolate sponge, a deliciously creamy smooth hazelnut buttercream, chocolate ganache, meringue kisses, which we've then got to dunk in chocolate and roll in nuts, and then we've got to assemble the whole thing. So we have got so much to get on with. So I'm going to quit the chat and get on with making our first 2 layers of cake, which is a hazelnut sponge. And for this, we're going to be using the traditional creaming method to create loads and loads of air. So we're going to start with 315 grams of caster sugar or granulated sugar, which I'm going to put straight into my lovely brand new pink gorgeous mixer, which I'm totally in love with. And then into that, obviously, some butter. So I've got 205 grams of soft, unsalted butter. Remember, it's got to be soft because we are creating air and it needs to whip up. So that is going in, but also, kind of different to usual, we're going to add a little bit of oil because we're going to be putting in some nut butter or some nut paste, and that can tend to dry out your cakes. So I'm also putting in 85 grams of vegetable or sunflower oil, along with 60 grams of the star of the show, which is hazelnut paste or gianduja. I think I've pronounced that correctly. If you cannot find hazelnut paste, you can get some hazelnut butter. And the reason that we're putting this in at the beginning rather than at the end is because if you are using hazelnut butter, it can be quite thick and quite hard to get through at the end of whipping this up. Oh man, that stuff smells so good. Okay, it is time to get mixing. So on with our paddle attachment, and we're just going to leave this for about 4 to 5 minutes until it has kind of doubled in volume. It's really creamy, really smooth, and the sugar has dissolved. Next up, we're going to add 5 eggs, beating really well between each addition. Now, a full confession, I am making a massive cake. I'm going to be making an 8-inch cake, which I understand is really big, so I will give you a smaller option in the description box below. But next up, we're going to add some flour. So I've got 315 grams of self-raising flour, which I'm going to sift in because, you know, you want to get maximum air, make this really lovely and light. And then to that, I'm just going to add a pinch of salt, probably about 1/4 teaspoon, and then we're going to fold this through. So we are going to use the mixer, but we're just going to put it on the lowest setting. And you just want to mix that until it's just come together before adding 3 tablespoons of milk. So it is crucial that you don't overmix the batter at this stage because we spent a lot of time getting loads of air in there when we were beating the butter, sugar and the eggs. So now it's time to get it into our tins. But before we do that, I'm just going to give it a good scrape around to make sure that everything is fully incorporated from the sides and the bottom of the bowl. And now it is time to get this batter into our tins. So like I said, I'm doing an 8-inch cake, so I've got 2 9-inch tins because I'm gonna trim off the edges of this cake. So first of all, you just wanna give your tins a spray with some cake spray, or you can do this with butter and flour. And then as evenly as you can, divide the batter between your pans. And then level them out with a palette knife or the back of a spoon. Now that is step one complete. Now next up we need to make our chocolate sponge, but if you've only got 2 cake tins and a regular size oven, you might want to get these in the oven now for about 22 to 25 minutes at 160 degrees C until the skewer comes out clean. But luckily I have got a million cake tins and 2 enormous ovens. So we're gonna get on with making our chocolate sponges now, which is a recipe we've shown you guys before, so we'll just whiz through it. So into this large bowl, I'm gonna start with 3 eggs. And to those, we're gonna add 225 grams of buttermilk, 225 mils of coffee, and 195 mils of either vegetable or sunflower oil. And then whisk those together until smooth. And now we're gonna grab our sieve back and we're gonna add in 325 grams of plain flour along with 60 grams of cocoa powder. Next up, we've got 1 full teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda and half a teaspoon of salt, and finally 345 grams of caster sugar. And again, we're gonna whisk those together until it is one deliciously smooth chocolatey batter. Looking pretty good right here. So again, 2 more pans that we're gonna grease, and then we'll divide the batter between the 2. Make sure you scrape all of this delicious batter into your pans, and then all 4 are going into the oven at 160 degrees C for 22 to 25 minutes until a skewer comes out clean. All right, so the cakes are out of the oven, they are cooling down behind me, so now it is time to get on with making our other millions of things that we need to make, starting with the ganache, which is what we're gonna put on the outside of our cake. So in this bowl, I've melted together 200 grams of chocolate. I've gone for 54% because that's my preferred, but 70 is also fine, and 100 grams of butter, and to it, I'm just gonna add 100 grams of double cream. That is it for that one, nice and simple. So we're just gonna leave that to one side to thicken up a little bit before we use it and get on with making our hazelnut buttercream, which I think is my favorite part of this cake. It is so delicious. Starting with 375 grams of soft, unsalted butter going into the mixer, and we're gonna whip this up on its own for about 5 minutes. So this is what your butter should look like, really pale and so fluffy and creamy. If it doesn't look like this, keep on whipping because this is super important to get lovely light buttercream. So next up, we've got 675 grams of icing sugar. I'm gonna add it in 2 halves, mixing really well in between each addition. So now it is time to add the amazing hazelnut paste. So I've got 2 tablespoons of it here. And then just mix that through just for a few seconds, and then we're gonna add some whole milk, a tablespoon at a time, until we get to the right consistency. And that is it. Pretty nice and easy. So everything is made. Now it is time to have a little clean down, and then we can start assembling. It is fun time. So the first thing we are going to do is trim down our cakes. And also, we've only got 4 layers of cake here and I want 8. So I've got myself a leveler, and I'm gonna start by trimming off the top of the cakes. And now I'm going to change my leveler to the lowest setting here, and I'm going to chop the layer of cake in half to give us 2 layers. Ta-da! Obviously it is a lot easier to do this with a leveler, but you can do this with a knife. Just go nice and slowly. And the last thing we're going to do to each layer of sponge is cut them out with a cake ring so that we get rid of all the kind of caramelization from the outside. And don't forget, a few weeks back, Nikki, Dane and I showed you how to make cake truffles with all your leftovers, and this would make the best cake truffle. You could pretty much make like an improved Ferrero Rocher. So that is done. So I'm going to do this to the rest of my cakes, and then we can start kind of layering it up with all our fillings. And now that we've got our 8 layers of trimmed cake, we can start icing. So get your turntable if you've got one, it's going to help you a lot here, and a cake board or a plate, and we're going to start layering it up. So start with a little bit of buttercream just to stick down your first layer of sponge. Quite a lot of buttercream. And then grab your first layer of sponge. So I'm going to go hazelnut first. Make sure it's in the middle of your board. Now, a nice big dollop of that delicious hazelnut buttercream is going on. And now, before I put on my next layer of sponge, I'm going to use my palette knife and just scoop out a tiny little kind of divot in the middle of our cake so that I can fill it with everybody's favorite nutty, chocolatey spread, Nutella of course, but you can use any kind of spread here, just a chocolate spread or some more nut butter, but really Nutella is the one. And again, using a palette knife just to spread it around a little bit. So then grab your next layer, so chocolate for me. Line it up as best you can before giving it a little pat down, and then we're going to go in with another blob of buttercream. And then on top of this layer of buttercream, I've got some chopped roasted hazelnuts that I'm going to sprinkle all over the top. And that is it. Now we just have to repeat that process. We're going to go sponge, buttercream, Nutella, sponge, buttercream, nuts until we get to the very top. Looks pretty amazing, huh? But now we need to put the ganache on the outside. So we're going to do a crumb coat. Because we trimmed off the outside of our cake, it's very, very crummy. So it's going to be really difficult to ice a nice kind of top coat straight away. So a crumb coat is just a thin coat of ganache or icing just to lock in those crumbs. And then before we put it in the fridge, I'm just going to give it a quick smooth out with the cake smoother, just to get it as neat as we can, which will make it easier when we come to top coating. No, it doesn't look super fantastic right now, but it's a crumb coat. It's not supposed to look perfect. So we're going to put it in the fridge for about half an hour just to kind of firm up the outside of the ganache so that we can top coat it. This is really heavy, sorry. I can't actually get my hands under it. Ooh, okay, here we go. So now the ganache has firmed up a little bit. It's not been in for too long, but just enough that we can apply a decent amount of pressure when we top coat. So we're going to put the rest of our ganache on and kind of smooth it out, but then we're going to do a texture. I will show you. So even though we're going to add a texture to this ganache, we do want to use the smoother just kind of briefly, just to even out the icing, to make sure that it's not kind of like a bit lopsided. So grab your smoother, but you know, don't spend hours trying to get it perfect. Okay, so we're gonna do the texture with the palette knife. You can do this with a big palette knife or a small one. I kind of like the big one. And what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna do it over here. I'm just gonna make little kind of swipes in the side of the cake, overlapping each one. So when you've done one full kind of ring of swipes, just work your way up and yeah, just overlap them. It can be kind of a little bit messy. Ta-da! And now, I mean, it looks like it's finished, but we've got a whole lot more to do, people. First of all, we're gonna add some nuts to the bottom. So I've got my roasted chopped hazelnuts here. I'm gonna grab a little handful of them, and then I'm just gonna very gently push them up the edge of the cake. Just gonna scrape off some of the excess nuts. And with the bit around the edge, I'm actually just pushing it in with the palette knife just to make sure it has stuck down. And next up, it is time for a ganache drip. A different type of ganache too. The ganache that we ice the cake with, because it's got the butter in it, it doesn't drip very well. So this ganache here is just equal quantities of chocolate and cream. So obviously with ganache drips or any kind of drips, you can do it with a piping bag and you'll get like a much more kind of even drip, but you don't have to, you can just do it with a palette knife like I did, and I quite like the kind of irregularity you get with it as well. Anyway, we're gonna put this guy back in the fridge just to firm up a little bit on top because I wanna add some buttercream finishes to this. So here we go again. Ooh. And now it is just time for some finishing touches. So I've got my leftover hazelnut buttercream in a piping bag with a really fun multi-star kind of nozzle on the end. And then as you can see here, I've got these gorgeous little meringue kisses that I made just using a classic French meringue recipe. I used 2 egg whites and then I doubled that weight to get the caster sugar quantity. And once they'd baked for about half an hour, I then dipped them in chocolate and rolled them in nuts. So now I'm gonna do a blob of buttercream on top of our cake, and then on top of that I'm gonna add a kiss. I'm just gonna keep going. No wonder you guys chose this cake to be the final cake of 2020. It is absolutely beautiful, and I know that it probably is going to take a couple of days to bake, but it is so worth it. It's so gorgeous and it tastes even better than it looks. So I think we should really cut a nice slice and give it a go. I wish I could stand it up. I think I'm gonna have to stand it down. Oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. Every time I say it, I just can't get over how amazing it is. I'm just gonna dive straight in. Thank you for choosing this cake. I am so happy that I get to eat this and this, because this is all mine. I'm not allowed to share this, you know, all the rules these days. Sorry, Sam. You're getting none. I'm kidding, you can have a bit from that side. Oh guys, thank you so much for watching this video and for watching all of our videos this year. It means the absolute world of us to have you here baking along with us every week, and thank you especially from me for letting me share some of my favourite recipes with you this year, and I can't wait to bring you more next year. I'd love to hear what you want to see in the new year. So put any of your ideas in the comments box below and we'll be sure to read through all of them and bring you stuff that you want to see next year. So happy New Year, guys. I hope you managed to have some small kind of celebration tonight, and we look forward to seeing you in the new year. So leave me alone with my cake now, please. No, go away.